principles in yoga, right? And then we make what when we in our method, right? One of the principles we think's in every pose, right? Thinks in every pose, which is down to go up, but that makes it sound like it's an action. And you've heard me say things that sound like I tend to, try to make things descriptive and say, hey, we're rising and falling in every moment. And this existential truth is reflected in every single pose. So one of the things I think that one of the reasons why I think asana is such an important limb is you get to practice things in 3 dimensions. Instead of it just being a thought or something that's kind of a nice little thing, doesn't ever quite make contact with the world, right? The asana allows you to practice realization in 3 dimensions. And as you know, I think that you can learn certain things in asana that generalize to your entire life, right? Like but it doesn't generalize in the way that your mind wants it to. You kind of have to like, what does the sensation of grounding look like in context? Not just like, that's the deeper question. One of the things that people end up thinking is like, what things, techniques from yoga can I do to ground in my life when I'm already in the frying pan, right? And that's a different kind of question, right? There are certain core sensations that we try to get across in the MBS method that are, I think, keys to having a better quality of life, right? So one of the things that asana gets you, allows you to figure out how to make happen in action is what it means for to be in alignment, right? So, but let's like alignment have a vast meaning, not just a physical meaning, not just a value meaning. Let's like for a second here go, okay, I'm going to take the energy I usually center with and I'm going to like that openness and think about what alignment can mean. So I'm thinking about starting this book I'm running with a line that, it's so funny. It helps when you like somebody, when you can really hear what they're saying, hear some truth, not even what they're saying. But I've sold this many times. I think about this a lot. Richard Freeman, who's an Ashtanga yoga teacher, who I don't see very often, and I just totally dig. Um, he's from Colorado. He's got a great wife, Mary. They're both amazing yogis. Um, he said, "Don't you know, Matt?" And he talks like he's taken a lot of acid, which I think probably has. Way back, he was actually, check this out. Richards became a Hare Krishna when he was 19, realized that that was going to turn into a cult, went to India, walked around India in ashrams for 4 years, ended up being the yogi in residence at the Shah of Iran's compound because his daughter took a liking to him. And that was, he said, a whole different kind of cult, a cult based on power. Didn't stay there very long. It was like way before, this is like early 70s, right? Before we knew all that was going on, or he knows what's going on. So he's just a wild guy, but I think he did a lot of stuff early on. I probably shouldn't say it out loud, but I'm pretty sure. But he says, and he talks kind of like this. And he says, don't you know, the ancient yogis thought that the natural consequence of alignment is compassion? I've been like unpacking that one for a long time. Compassion's not necessarily a moral insight. If you're aligned with all that's here, the natural consequence is compassion. That's a super hopeful thought. Our culture tends to think about compassion as a moral insight. I think this is part of the mistake. Everyone can argue about morality, right? So the other thing he said to me, and another cryptic thing he said to me one time was, I was talking to him, we're talking about Bonda's like, he's a great, strange guy. And he said, again, in this kind of voice, right? He's done so much meditating and stuff, right? When he's meditating and sitting in a posture, he kind of in like siddhasana or lotus, it's like he sits so quietly, almost bends the space around him. It's wild to be around him sitting because it's like it creates this kind of vortex of something, right? But then, so and he has that even when he's walking around. It's what happens when you practice that much from the outer limits, right? And he says to me that he goes, well, the ancients also thought that you can never really know the earth unless something drops towards the earth. That the earth is so vast, your mind can't actually drop by itself. Something more profound has to drop. So a good name for this class could be the fall before the rise, right? That's a hint to Bethany here, right? It's not the only we always try to figure out a title at the end of it, right? So typically human aspiration tends to rise all the time, and then you worry about the fall, right? Like, oh my God, I'll get there, and then, oh my God, if I screw up and I fall off the path, then you worry about the fall and you try to stay rigid, and all of a sudden purity starts happening, a whole bunch of righteousness starts happening, and a whole bunch of things because the aspirational rise is not realized to be integrated with the necessary fall. That the existential metaphysic, in my opinion, after all these years of doing yoga, that existence literally, as it falls, it simultaneously rises. One's not like they're together. The space is already integrated, right? So it's already fallen and it's already risen. Like it's already, that's part of, and it's in every yoga pose, right? And so I know, we're going to cross the universe here, make it super practical. Typically, when a lot of you lift your chest, you start the action from the chest, from the upper body. And that's easy for me to do because I'm paralyzed, right? And so my legs don't, the grounding part is actually not coming from my legs for my mind, right? But my legs were always grounded, right? They were always here having the down, but my mind can't grasp it. So a lot of times when like, for example, here'd be another example would be when you think about the healing power of your breath, you always think about an inhalation first, right? Oh yeah, breath. And you take a big inhale. Except everyone lift your chest, like kind of throw it up, like just do it kind of fast, like you did before you were a yogi, right? Right? Notice that you don't have the underpinning, right? So also, oh my God, I'm gonna like get the power of the breath. You go right to the inhale, you go right to the rise, right? And that's not necessarily wrong, except exhaling and realizing that on an exhale, your chest doesn't have to drop. It can, right? But the exhale, so like when BK Sangar started teaching breath awareness and pranayama, he draws attention to your exhale first. Notice your exhale because he's allowing the fall. He'll say in poses, little lines you don't even think are in, but he's setting the stage for the whole thing. He'll say, feel the gravity. There's in one of his twists that I've taught before that I watched one, or I listened to one time. Feel the gravitational effect on your legs. What? Well, right now, just kind of let it happen. And then let your exhale follow the gravitational down. Now, what's miraculously wonderful about being alive is that even as you start to allow the fall, there's actually a lightening and a rise. It's already occurred. Your asana is just trying to follow it. Okay. I've told you over and over that I think asana is an attempt at congruence, an alignment, a congruence with what's already here. And the natural consequence of that is compassion. But let's not rush. Let's stay with what's actually happening as the foundation of our practice, right? Part of the way when we soften organs of perception before we center, lips together, teeth slightly apart, allow that the ears connect right through the center of your head. All these are part of they're all part of, right? From which you realize the rise. You don't assert the rise. You start to let it drop and you go, wait, I feel lighter when I finally get into bed at the end of the day. There's a rise here. And then asana tries to get the body in alignment with the existential condition, which is a simultaneous rise and fall. It's already happening. Our minds don't pay attention. They're too busy with other stuff. Then there are other voices in yoga that says, the busyness of your mind is the root of all suffering. Because at the state that's actually integrated, there is no suffering. I don't know, that seems kind of bold, but I'm willing to go with it. They get to use hyperbole too, right? But I'm pretty sure when I say, don't you know life actually feels good at the very core? It's because when you start to allow the simultaneity of the happening, it actually feels good. It's kind of hopeful. All this, so let's center. So try to think of centering as, I always say, your door opening into an energy. The energy source doesn't exactly have a form. And I love asana because it doesn't require a belief. You just start to feel it. I don't have to convince you of anything if you practice, right? So I'm going to start like softening the organs of perception again. Allow the fall. Follow the gravitational effect and become congruent as you start to lift your chest. Embody what's already here. Underneath where the physical substance is. Your empty spaces are already integrated with everything else. What the hell? Balance your head over your neck. Pay attention to your next exhale. Let your shoulder blades drop. Already start to gently lift your chest and feel your feet, right? As you start the inhale. And then let it wash out, but don't drop, right? Oh my God, there's a balance here. It was here the whole time. Good, and then release. Take your sternum up towards your chin down over your sternum. Anchor the spine a little bit more. Raise your head up with closed eyes and then open your eyes. I can't stop laughing because Zoom just asked me, a thing popped up on my screen and said, this is so funny. Are you speaking Arabic? Confirm your settings, confirm your language. So if that was a little bit lost on you, apparently it lost the program. So whatever. I've never had that happen and asked me if I'm speaking Arabic. It said, what language are you speaking? Please confirm. And then it came up that it was Arabic. So, so I guess we're not used to that, right? The fall before the rise. So again, let's get unheavy for a second. You move the body to create the space so our minds can receive the natural existential rise that is simultaneous with the fall, right? So this principle of the grounding being a requirement for the mind to realize the rise, right? For you to do a good yoga pose, you definitely need to find a way to ground, but let's talk about grounding in terms of of the fall, and then it creates, as you know from your own practice, it creates the rise too, or doesn't create it. It allows you to see it, right? So it's already happened, right? It's already here. So take your legs wide just for a little bit. Let's keep opening up the space, right? But this principle, so what I'm doing is like getting the muscles to wake up. So I get to receive more of what's actually here, right? So funny. In a way, asana is brilliant, right? Because it gives you ways to practice, but it tricks a whole bunch of practitioners into thinking the doing of the pose is the purpose of the pose, right? But the mind likes achievement. So it's like, hey, I want to be able to do the pose. It's tricky, but it's also, you're actually trying to use and practice what it is to be congruent, right? And you can find being congruent in any movement, right? Right. So, and I guarantee you, the kind of idea that sometimes you get in gentle yoga or chore yoga that whatever you do is okay. No, actually, it is okay, but it doesn't mean you're doing good yoga, just so you know. Hate to break it to you, right? Right? Whatever you do is okay. But just so you know, here's a bulletin. You can improve. So can I. It's a news bulletin, news flash, right? Again, so I'm just getting it open. And as I go up, I hope you're going down, right? Each time. And if you can't even take your arm up, like go get your chest to lift up, right? And then watch the up, but see the down, see the backstory of every movement, right? Even when you bring your hands into prayer, right? Or if you can lean on your legs or lean on your table, right? As soon as I ground, that's the earth. Something's going down, right? If you can bring your hands into prayer, if I want to get the earth again, I make sure the heel of my hands connect. Earth, right? And then I bring my fingers together. And then can I make the center of my palm go in every direction in a way that follows the existential condition of everything at once, of rising and falling at once? Now, if I get lost in trying to stretch the skin on every finger, I lose the earth, right? So I got to do things simultaneously. What the hell? You mean I got to work here? And I don't know about you, but like if I try to do this and I can't get my heel of my hands together, it's not the end of the world, right? There are ways to make these. So if I can't get the heel of my hands together, I can tell you right off the bat, I can't feel my legs as well. I don't know what the hell's going on. I just know it's true. Okay. Now, if I can't get my heels of my hands together, then I better make another heel of my hand, but maybe I can make it on a different part of my hand. So maybe the heel of my hand becomes my fingers, these bones here, right? And then I make sure I use that to find where my legs are. What? Right? So I'm going to do it here, then here. And then as I bring every movement of my hands opening in every direction, there's a new opportunity for my chest to be congruent with my hands. What? And then down to the sitting bones, down to the feet, and up to the top of my head. At every level, just like the laws of physics work on every point in space, the same thing's happening in every point of space in an asana. It's just really hard to pay attention. The mind gets overwhelmed. So the mind needs to get quiet. And you have to learn from the happening. Damn. Freedom. Because I can't be aware of everything. It's actually freedom. It's not ignorance. It's freedom. Breathe. Good. So now I want there to be want a little bit of connection. Put my shirt down here. Knees to tailbone. There's a triangle here. It's a stool. Heel to the outside edge of each ball of each foot as a mirror of the tailbone to each knee, right? Heel to the outside the ball of each foot, right? So you start trying to get connection, center of the sternum to the tip of each shoulder. Another triangle. Apex of the head, tip of each shoulder. Another triangle. You mean there's triangles everywhere? Oh dear. It's true. Good. And then release. Inhale up. Exhale, revolve. Spine now needs to enter the poses. The tendency for me when I'm not warmed up is I want to torque the outside of the pose, but I'm going to try to stay patient enough to let my midline start the pose, which means I have to find the earth. Some of you already went to the full twist. That means you're going straight to hell, just saying. That's a little extreme. It's not true, right? But I'm telling you, find the source of the twist. Keep the mind in pace. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, revolve. Use the triangles now to make sure you stay in dimension, in 3 dimensions. The triangle on the foot, the triangle between the tailbone and the knees, the spine twisting, the triangle from the tips of the shoulders to the top of the head. Good, and then release. Come back to center. So one of the superpowers of the mind and its greatest weakness is that it flattens experience. over and over again, your mind will make your body will try to force it into two dimensions. It'll try to like get focused on something and make the world smaller. So trying to remind yourself of ways to let your body have three dimensions. And so like BK saying, we'll talk about circumference a lot to help you keep the mind from squeezing experience, right? Because once you squeeze experience, you lose the earth. Okay? Human beings have been squeezing experience for a long time. Right? So I'm going up and down. I'm exhaling. Now I'm trying to stay patient on this side, right? Whoops, I mean, you're going pretty far, right? So more is not more, just so you know, right? So now I want it, when my mind starts wanting to twist the pose, I will flatten my body. So I'm going to pause here and try to keep three-dimensional in my body so I don't lose the earth, right? So I've given you a couple of like just images, the tailbone to each knee, the heel, center of the heel to each end of the toe mound, the shoulders in relationship to the top of the head. I want to keep all those happening. Then inhale, well, exhale first, find the earth again. Inhale into the twist, but keep your dimension. Don't let your mind squeeze and flatten your pose. Inhale, lift up, exhale, roll. And it's going to do it some because that's what the mind does. Inhale, lift up, exhale, revolve. Good. And then come on back to center. Ironically, your mind screws up your pose, right? But you think that's the only way I can learn a pose is if I try to do all the instructions. Well, that's why you practice. So your mind doesn't have to flatten the pose all the time. Because your mind's going to flatten the pose. Your will flattens the world. That's how it succeeds, right? But it flattens it. Anyone get tired after using the will for like 24 straight hours? Anyone get exhausted? It's because you freaking cut off the source of living, right? Your will is a temporary solution to a continuous problem. So come forward. I'm lengthening my back. Has anyone fallen in love with the little spaces between the vertebrae of your low back? For God's sakes, you better freaking start liking that. Are you kidding me? You should be falling in love with that space. And then once you start hitting your sitting bone bones down and lengthening your back a little bit, what are you wasting it? Do you think that's the end of the story? What do you do with that extra gush of what's actually happening? The spaciousness that's part of the effort. Where are you bringing it? Well, and then release. So let's think about that for a second. Where are you going to bring that? So you get this space. Does anyone, when you get length in the low back, do you feel like this kind of like someone went, oh, and it's kind of relief and it's kind of like a light, but it's a relief. It's got all this different dimension to it. Well, let's try to put it back into those triangles, right? Because we got something working in this class that allows you to take what's already here and make sure your mind doesn't deny it to the full dimension of your body. This length in your low back is a crucial part of almost every yoga pose, especially forward bent standing poses, right? So now hands again, either on your lap, right? On a table. I'm going on the desk in front of me. I'm going to come forward on my sitting bones a little bit. I'll do it on my sitting bones this time, right? On my legs, so my forearms. So as soon, remember, so the theme of the class is as soon as I do this, right? It's earth. It's the grounding. And I know right away, before I start efforting, the grounding has already created a rise. Because that's how the universe goes. Okay? It's not what you do, it's how the universe goes. Because you're trying to become in alignment with the universe. And one of the reasons why you want to come in alignment with the universe is a natural consequence of alignment is compassion. Compassion that comes from the spine to the world, not from the head to the world. Right? That's why we think compassion comes from here. At least we're not completely stupid, right? We try to say compassion needs to come from the heart. We're not totally stupid. Okay, so now I'm gonna do some things to make this space more dynamic. I'm gonna hit down through my sitting bones, and then from Shavasana, From Shavasana, I'm gonna lift my lower abdomen up to my chest. Right? I'm gonna allow it to rise. So I'm hitting down with my sitting bones, earth, and I'm letting this kind of weird type of space start to come through my body. I'm going to catch it and broaden across my collarbones and broaden the space between my shoulder blades. So I'm catching stuff now. I'm trying to catch what's already here. Okay, so I've got this happening. So all this from having more space in my low back. So then let it all collapse. Let your spine go. Okay. Now try to do the same. Try to do all this without moving your body. Can you catch any of the same energy at all? I can't at all. You know why? Because your mind's inorganic. Your mind channels energy that's not as alive. Your body makes sure it becomes alive. And some really smart people like Descartes went into a room and thought came out only coincidentally attached to his body. What an idiot. He's an idiot. I don't even know what to say, right? Holy God, right? Okay, whatever though. He wants to live in a world without energy, without living energy. Okay, but I digress, right? So now I'm leaning forward again. And I'm making sure that I open to this space between my sitting bones. I lift my lower abdomen, lengthen this space between the vertebrae. I catch it with my shoulders. I catch it with my sternum. Now I need not to grip this too hard. So I need to like feel my skin and smile just a little bit and let the world be really cool, right? Not just about my effort. God dang, it seems like a good time to breathe. Huh. You mean the poses write themselves? You mean compassion's a natural consequence of alignment? I think maybe it is. Good, and then I clap. My access to what's here just completely changes. This would be to do like compassion from this kind of collapse position would be what self-sacrifice would be. So now I'm going to use my body to come into alignment. I'm going to actually empower my actions. I'm going to open, I'm going to lengthen that space in my back. Now I'm going to put it into those triangles, right? Sitting bones to each knee. Going to go from the center of my heel out to the outside edge of the ball of my feet. Tips of my shoulders, top of my head. Oh my God, you mean there's a little triangle between the shoulder blades? Yeah, don't tell anybody. I mean, I can find little triangles all over my body. Yeah, don't tell anybody. They're everywhere all at once. Yeah, don't tell anybody. Good, and then release. Anyone ever heard me say prana reward structure? Oh, maybe I've said that before. Huh. Yeah. Up, over. Gotta squeeze this empty space. So the empty space I've just opened up by that pose, I'm gonna make it sure it lands back in my spine and then make my spine dynamic, right? So when you twist, think about you're taking the energy, you're bringing kind of more squeeze on your spine to not just twist farther, you're twisting to release energy through your entire vessel, right? So it becomes one of the centers. So I'm going to come and I'm going to find the earth right away again, because I want to fall before I start to rise, right? I'm going to ground earth here, going to grab my knee. I'm leaning forward, so I've got earth coming here, right? So I've got a whole bunch of base for the earth, right? Because in order for me to realize the immensity of the presence of the earth, something of me has to drop. I'm going to take my other arm slightly behind me, and I don't want to open this too fast. So first I'm going to go here and make sure this opening and this weight on my elbow is balanced, right? So as soon as I do that, as soon as I make sure I'm not just falling onto this too hard and opening this without being connected, as soon as I make this and this talk to each other, I get lighter. Do you? I get lighter. What? Huh. Fucking, so then here, I'm going to exhale, find the earth again, engage, inhale, lift up, and exhale, and bring the whole universe with me on the twist. Inhale, lift up, exhale, revolve. Now, if you want to use some of the window dressing at the end, lift under your collarbones, because it's a good window dressing, but just don't steal from your sitting bones and your base. Don't steal. My God, don't steal. Good, and then come on back. Stealing sounds moral, but it's actually a misappropriation of resources. Stealing sounds immoral, like, oh no, I'm not supposed to not steal. That's bad, bad, bad. No, it's a misappropriation of resources, right? You're actually wasting shit, right? All right. But you're stealing because you think you're getting more, but you're not, right? So I just found earth. I leaned forward. I found earth. I grab my other knee. I'm forward, so I have earth again. I'm finding a place to support, and it's different on this side for me, right? I'm making sure this shoulder blade tucks in, because I want to make sure if I let this shoulder pop up like this, right? The space in my low back has collapsed, right? So I bring this in and down to extend the space in my low back, which I know is magical. Now I start to twist, but I'm gonna feed the triangles again. Tailbone to each knee, center of the heel to each mound, tip of each shoulder to the top of my head. Exhale, inhale, make space. Exhale, bring the energy toward the spine to fill the vessel to the outer tips. Good, and then release. Come on back to center. So every pose, pretty much, on the deepest level, brings things back to the midline. But it does it to do this through the whole vessel, right? So as you go back towards the midline, you're going back towards the earth. When you extend in a pose, you're opening towards the sun, right? But, sun just burns unless the earth decides to grow shit along with, with the new energy. All right, so now I'm gonna go up, I'm gonna lean over and get bigger. But I want all these actions, earth, the space that I get from finding earth, the length in my low back, informing the arm. And as this opens, I hope you're feeling your legs more. Feed from the heel to the outside of each palm mound, right? So this action of opening feeds the whole vessel, right? And then release. every action feeds the whole vessel, some better than others, right? Coming here, down. I'm earthing again. Anyone heard that rap song, You Be Illin? Right? You be earthin'. Gotta find the earth. Soon as I find the earth, then I'm opening. This is a natural consequence. It doesn't have to be done violently. It's coming from everything else. I'm opening. And as I do, I feed the triangles. And as this opens, it touches all the spaces. It's a good time to breathe. Good. And then come on back to center. So the thing about often the way that I practice is I forget to have fun sometimes because I start getting caught up in all the, right? So, in the immensity of it all, the opportunity of it all, right? So take some time to be sensual here. Now, whatever that means for you, right? Remember that as you're trying to be so focused, right? That there needs to be a feeling, right? It needs not all, and I'm switching hands. I'm like, leaning forward. I put one hand on my foot pedal, one hand on my wheel one way, and then I do the same on the other because I'm a good enough yogi that I know that I need to work each side. There are things that I need to always kind of do, so I treat my body as equally as possible, right? So, right, and then, so I'm gonna practice some more rhythm here. So, so again, here's the earth, right? I push on my knees and I articulate my femur bone back towards my spine. And I leap forward with my spine because I can't not, right? And so I'm gonna go, that happened. Now I'm gonna try to make it more rhythmic. So it may not look so much on the camera, but the difference between this, right? And this is kind of delicious, right? It's kind of delicious. So I'm just going at my own pace here, like, hey, oh, it's so much more than a cat and it's so much more than a cow. I like them both, but cats and cows are an interesting combination of energies, right? Are you more prone to be a cat or a cow? I have to say, I'm much more a cow than I'm a cat. I respect cats. I like cats. But in final analysis, I think I'm a cow, right? More of a cow. So I'm going back and forth. So now I want to go one knee back. So I'm pushing on my right knee back. Right side on my left, so this is my right knee back, left knee forward, left side of my breastbone forward, right? So I'm doing that. And then I'm coming back. Then I'm gonna try to do it the other way. My scoliosis doesn't make me as good on this side, so I gotta figure out ways to do this. So left knee back, right knee forward, right chest, right breastbone forward. Then I'm gonna go the other way. Then I'm gonna go the other way. So I'm gonna start going back and forth. Then I'm gonna, for a second, pretend I'm an ice skater. I'm striding, so that one long stride that goes out, you push and you go forward, right? So now I'm gonna give length to each knee coming forward. And length, the stride behind goes longer, right? So now I'm no longer contained by the confines of my body. And in fact, I'm gonna not grab my legs anymore. I'm gonna grab a little farther down so I can get the stride going forward and a length in the stride going back. Right? And then I'm gonna do it the other way. Right? And I'm gonna go back and forth and go. And then, oh my God, I'm gonna add my spine, right? So I'm gonna make sure there's space in my spine happening. So my spine, the space in my spine, the rising and the falling and the filling actually goes into this different leg movement, right? From side to side. So I've got one stride going out, one stride going back. I'm adding the length in my spine, right? To this movement. And I'm going back and forth and I'm getting, by elongating, by not letting my pose end at the terminus of my body, I'm getting more grace, right? Don't be confined by the limits of your body, right? Don't leave the limits of your body. What? That doesn't make sense. I don't care. It's because our mind is stupid, right? And then I'm going to sit still for a second. Now, I don't know about you, but when I start getting my spine to move like that, does anyone feel like a pulse hum kind of? Like you kind of feel the lightness and there's a little bit of fatigue in there. And so I'm just gonna sit here and drink that in. I'm gonna lap that up like a dog at his drinking pail. Like, hmm, I think I like that. So I'm gonna feel it for a second. Hmm. Take a couple of breaths. All right, so now I want to add some back bends. What? That's supposed to back bend at the end of class. Whatever, right? So I'm gonna find the earth again. Now I'm gonna go over, up, and over in a second, right? So I'm gonna like, remember we did this a lot last week. I'm gonna like go and pull out on my knees a little bit, make there be some space in my hip, right? And maybe just because I'm gonna start doing it by one knee at a time. I'm gonna make sure there's some rhythm here. And then with both knees, I'm gonna push away if I can on both knees. And that's gonna make me go back, right? And then there's a certain point where as I go back, I'm gonna lift the center of my sternum towards the sky, and I'm gonna let my tailbone rise, right? So I'm gonna go up. And then once I'm there, I'm gonna lengthen from the center of my sternum up the front of my neck to my chin. And as I do that, my plant's poking me right in the eye. As I do that, as I lengthen from here, right, I'm gonna go down through my feet. Where are your triangles? Are they part of this pose? Good, and then release. So on this next one, right, do you get how if you use your back of your chair to push against a back bend, you've missed a remarkable opportunity of rising and falling, right? Because you've used violence against it as a lever. So instead, that's why I say when you go start to feel your back of your chair, open in all direction, like you open your palm. And when you do it that way and go up and over, notice how much more you feel in your legs. Okay, because remember, you need to have things falling towards the earth in order to open towards the sky, right? All right, so on this next one, I'm gonna do, I'm gonna make sure I got rhythm here, a little bit of fun stuff, a little bit of funsy. I'm gonna make sure I got space in here because I want this one to rock, right? I want this one to be a good one, right? And get a little rhythm here, a little back and forth stuff. Then I'm gonna ground, and here comes the earth, boom, boom, and here it starts to go. Start to lengthen and open. I feel the back of my chair, but I don't just collapse into it, right? I go into it and then up and over, and I let the back of my, between my shoulder blades open the way I can open my palms. And I make sure I stick to the triangle on the bottoms of my feet. And then if you take the head back, go and find it in the legs and open and let the back body touch the sun. Not what you think is the most drama. Let the space on the back of your sternum open. Keep the triangle between the tailbone and the knees. Keep the earth. Don't push it. More is not more. Good, and then release. Come forward. I'm gonna come down and ground. It's better not to talk when you're doing these things, just so you know. That's why I have to ground here, because talking when I'm doing that much is a little bit hard on my system. So I'm not going to do a gentle twist, right? I'm not going to grab my knee. I want this twist. I want the one that's more like Marichiasan 3, right? And then open. They really need to know that, but it's a different twist, right? Right. So I'm just going to gently like make sure that if I have anything stuck in my low back, that I let my sitting bones drop, I raise up, and I'm very consciously, very gently trying to like gently squeeze my low back so it lets go of stuff that it might have gotten overworked in with the back bend. And then come back to center. I'm going to find the triangles, make sure I stay in dimension. Ground here. Gently encase my low back so it can let go of stuff. As I inhale, lift up, and exhale. Good, and then come on back to center. Want Shavasana to have a little bit of lightness in it, right? So I'm leaning forward, going towards the earth, following the whole class, lifting up, having the rise and the fall in my body, right? And then finding support. Oof. As soon as I really let my back get supported, my neck just went. Oh, good. You've been, like it showed me I've been overusing my neck in this class. Okay, so I'm gonna let that, I'm gonna do a little bit of reminding my neck to be released. Use an exhale to find center, right? Exhale, shows the center. The good thing about Shavasana is that if you focus on the fall, the rise is the relief. Lips together, teeth slightly apart. Soften skin on the face. The inner ears, the base of the tongue. Relaxing the base of the tongue allows the inner ears to relax. Relax the belly to relax the throat. Feel your breath. Don't change it. Thank your body. Thank it again. Start to bring yourself back. Slightly deeper inhalation. Slightly longer exhalation. When you're ready, open your eyes. If you want to, you get to close them again. And then open them again. Figure out how light feels on your eyeballs, what it feels like when it goes into your spine. It's a good thing. Dang it, I had something to say I was in Shavasana, I want to say it and I forgot. Oh well. Don't that's part of what's so powerful about this community is that, we're all living with stuff, extra stuff, which means that we actually kind of already know the fall, right? In a way that everyone, so many other people are trying to resist all the time. But they're missing something, right? They're missing something. All right, everybody. Thursday, Kiss My Ass to Me. Apparently it's 1